So here are my new headlights on my BMW F30, and so far they've proven to be quite excellent. Why would I do this? Why would I replace the headlights? I take out my new BMW and it's fine, except at night. It's very hard to see. I do some research and find that I'm not the only one complaining about the bad headlights. The Insurance Institute did some research recently and they found lots of cars with poor headlights. Here's the excerpt for the BMW. Among the 44 headlight systems earning a poor rating, the halogen lights of the BMW 3 Series are the worst. Now, I have a problem with BMW releasing a car that has anything that's considered the worst. I should be getting quality lights. Now, there might be an upgrade to extremely awesome lights, but there's no way that the factory lights, the default lights on a BMW, should be flagged the worst. That's terrible. These are the lights I got from Pro Tuning Lab. These are the chrome ones. They also have a black version. There it is right there, $385. A lot of people have criticized my decision to use non-BMW parts. Well, here's a BMW light. One side, the left side, $1,100. So upgrading to BMW lights is probably unrealistic. I suspect the wiring harness is different. Plus, you don't have the ballasts here. And you probably have to change the computer programming to know that it's these adaptive headlights and so forth. So it's cost prohibitive, and I didn't find any easy package that said, here's all you have to do to migrate to the xenon headlights original BMW. So I went with aftermarket parts, and believe it or not, there's a huge industry for aftermarket parts. I mean, BMW is very popular, and there's tons of parts out there. Alright, we got a 2013 F30 BMW, and we're replacing the factory headlights, which are the halogen bulbs. So, what we have here, these bad boys. They're projectors. They got these LED lines on there. So the way these work is the high beam and low beam are in the same projector, and this projector over here is strictly a daytime running lamp. So let's back out. I got these from Pro Tuning Labs online. They were like $385 for the pair. They seem to be very well made, and we'll take a look at them closer up front later. One of them's already installed. Now I got to tell you that taking the lamps out of the F30 is no small task. There's a lot of bolts. Things are hard to get to. When you're working the back side of the lamp to try to get those bolts out of there, be sure to take the inner fender out. The front inner fender. It'll be a lot easier to get to everything. That's easy to remove, but you'll be struggling. If you have a license plate, make sure you remove the plate, because the plate bracket screws to that. It'll keep the fascia from coming off. So you got to make sure you remove the plate out. And this one has the headlight washers, and on the side where the fill tank is, there's a connector. You're gonna have to disconnect that. Now there's a lot of videos on actually how to take the bumpers off and the headlights off, so I'm not going to deal with all that. You can watch those. I'm just going to talk about whether this was successful or not. So far, the amount of labor to get these headlights out has been much harder, much higher than I expected. I'm really frustrated with how complicated BMW made something that is so simple on many other cars. Alright. Let's look at the headlight here. So I've taken the access ports off. And this port right here, there's nothing you can get to that you would change. There's no bulb here that you can use, that you can touch. There's an LED that is a daytime running lamp. You can see the back side of it. On this side, we have a standard H7 bulb that came with the lamp, so I didn't install that. And I'm really not sure how the high beam, low beam works on this because I do not see an additional bulb. I don't know where the low beam is or the high beam. I'll have to play around with it a little bit more. But the build quality seems very good. This is obviously a non-trivial piece of plastic to create. I'd say that whomever made these is probably a legitimate headlight manufacturer. I just don't see this being something somebody would undertake unless they were really committed to headlight manufacturing. Just looking at it from the front. In fact, you can see the LED, the SMDs in there, whatever they call those things. And can't really see anything in there. When you're putting these covers back on, there's really no lock stop to hold you from spinning it around. So if you spin it too far, it'll just come off again. So you see that pin right there, that guide pin? It's really to help you hold it. Well, anyway, just turn that. I can't do it one-handed. Hold on. Okay, so you just turn it about a quarter of a turn once it's on there, and you'll be all set. Next, we're going to look at, try to figure out how that high beam, low beam works. Okay, so I have someone sitting in the car flicking it from high beam to low beam. Keep doing it. And you can hear the clicking. So there's a mechanical action occurring inside here. Good, dude. Okay. All right, so what we have here is we have a single bulb that's the beam is being redirected. Beam is being redirected between high beam and low beam. Back to the headlights. All right, so here's a suggestion. One is only take out one headlight at a time. The reason is there's a lot of hardware, and it's easy to get mixed up on which kind of screw or bolt goes where. Some of them have Torx heads on them, some of them don't. Here's an example right here. You know, even this one has Torx heads on it. So, also, when you're putting the lamp in from underneath, which is where you want to be, you know, these screws right here, these bolts, they are used to also align the headlight, because there's a slot in there. So you're not going to want to tighten those down until after you put the front fascia back on, I think, and then do a final placement and then tighten the lamps down all the way. Should be able to do that. We'll see. Well, the job is done. The headlights were phenomenally hard to put in. It took me more than 6 hours, and I'll tell you some things you definitely need to do first. When you do this job, make sure you take the wheels off and take the front inner fender wells out, because you're going to have a lot easier time getting to this stuff right off the bat. I waited before I did that, and I should have done it first off. I also had significant problems with the hardware that physically holds those headlights to the brackets. That's BMW hardware, and it's shit. It wouldn't come off. The screws were stripping, all kinds of stuff. I ended up replacing it with aftermarket, regular old nuts and bolts. Very, very complicated. Of course, you need to aim your headlights when you're done, and I'll show you quickly how to do that. Alright, so I adjusted the lamp, and I got both lamps pretty well adjusted. The car is 20 feet from the garage door, and the adjustment was very easy, and you can see I got both those lamps pretty much even, and looks pretty good. Maybe I'll lower them just a tiny bit, but the idea, of course, is to get them, you know, aligned and smooth. You must do this at the end. Okay, and final, let's look at the transition between low beam and high beam. That's a very big pattern.